Hi, welcome back to Everybody Loves Politics. I'm your host, Tom Bullington, and today on the show we have a newcomer to television, Bob Anderson. And Bob is a new resident of Hastings who saw the show, wanted to be on and talk politics. So you work up in Edina and you are a dental technician?
Yes.
Okay.
I make teeth, so if a patient goes to the dentist, need a crown or a bridge, they send it to a dental lab and we fabricate it there. So
Okay.
it's kind of a manufacturing in the dental industry. Been doing that for the last 40 years. So.
I think you told me that you found yourself on the conservative end of the spectrum, common sense conservative.
Yep.
Maybe tell us your story, how you became a conservative and why you feel that way.
Well, the very first election I voted in was Jimmy Carter. I grew up in Richfield, Minnesota. It was very Democrat, blue collar, old Democrat Party. It's changed a lot. It's gone very far left as far as my concern. So. And being a small business owner, dealing with the immigration issues, illegal immigration issues, which we've dealt with, healthcare costs are your biggest concern. And it's just, I don't like, the Democratic platform is bigger government. My philosophy is limited government. Let us work, let us have common sense regulations, let us have an ability to, taxes that we're not taxed to death. And I just don't, to be honest with you though, I haven't seen it coming from the Republican Party either. So
Okay.
I consider myself a independent conservative.
All right.
And I think both parties have become one of the same. They each have different menu items that they offer up. The Democrats have more of the social issues, or social justice issues.
Right.
But the the Republicans are more of the social issues as far as the marriage, same-sex marriage and abortion issues, but they know they really don't do anything about it.
Okay.
So I found both parties to be very disappointing, and I was a member of a third party, the Independence Party, but I've come to the conclusion that I think we need a second party.
Okay.
I think that it's two parties are too much of just in it for the power of the party, and they've lost what they were supposed to go there to represent us.
So as we're taping this, the Republican National Convention is happening right now in Cleveland. And are you going to be watching that, or are you going to? Okay, you're going to tune in?
My intention was to be a national delegate.
Okay.
I never was a member of the Democrat or Republican Party. I was a member of the Independence Party because I've run for office before.
Oh, all right.
I ran for Congress in the 6th District. I
Oh,
ran against
really?
Michelle Bachmann. She was the incumbent, and Terrell Clark.
Oh, all right.
So it was a very expensive race.
As an independent?
Yes,
then, or-
I was the
okay.
Independence Party
Oh,
candidate.
great. Okay.
And I loved it. I mean, that's the other reason I know that there's no difference in these two parties, because when you run, you get to pull that veil back and you see what's going on behind the scenes. And honestly, I tell people this all the time. The only way we're ever going to change Washington is a revolution.
Okay.
Peaceful, hopefully. And because they don't care about the power of the party, both parties. And it's sad, because we do need at least two parties. So what I found is this year, and it's very controversial, but I'm a pro-Trump. And I came to the Republican Party only because of Donald Trump.
Wow.
Because
all right.
I thought finally we got somebody from the private sector. Somebody that has experience working with all these issues that we all face. They don't see that in Washington. They're going there as a career these days. They were supposed to go as representatives, taking people like yourself, myself, our crew here, that have got practical experience in the private sector, go to Washington and serve your term, and then you come back into society and work under the rules that you passed. That's not happening. They're going there for a career.
It's almost a lifetime.
Exactly.
Right.
And they're so disconnected from what the rest of us are facing. So I heard Donald Trump, and believe me, I've never been a fan of Donald Trump.
Personally, on TV?
TV, any of that stuff. But here I listened to him, and I thought, here we got a guy that's got name recognition. He's got all the money. He's self-financing. Everybody's complaining about the money in politics. We got to get the money out of politics. The Supreme Court decision, Citizens United.
Right.
Well, here's Trump. He says, I'm paying myself. I'm not taking any money. I'm not going to be a puppet. I'm going to finance myself, which I liked. I like the fact that he's a successful businessman.
Okay.
He has created jobs. He deals with healthcare. He knows how we've been getting raked over the coals with premiums going sky high year after year.
Obamacare.
Obamacare is all new to this, and I've got another opinion on that, but prior to Obamacare.
Even before that?
Even before that. That was our biggest expense every year. I don't care if it was Blue Cross or Medica. They were, your premiums went up. They got to go up,
Well, you talked about, that Mr. Trump builds
Yep.
things. Of course, one of the things that he first started talking about was the wall between
Yes.
the United States and Mexico to keep illegal immigration down, or at least prevent people from coming over the border freely. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, thinking about the illegal immigration, both parties have been talking about reforming it. The Republicans have talked big talk how they were going to crack down and start enforcing the laws. Nobody's done anything about it. And the problem, one of the problems I foresee is, because I ran into this issue, we had an employee from Mexico working with us, probably one of our best employees. And he became very much a friend of the family.
Okay.
He was working with us for a couple of years, and shortly after September 11th, Social Security office called and said, one of your employees, the number isn't correct. So really, okay, well, I figured one of us.
Typo
Yes,
or something,
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Never thought about this. And pretty soon I had them write it down and resubmit it and everything, and they called us again and said, no, it's, so I thought, okay, what's going on here? Well, he took us in the office and confessed to us that he was illegal, had come in illegal, had a fake Social Security card, fake green card, everything. And I had all taken down all this stuff, but it was all fake, and none of us in this room could have told that was fake.
It looked legit to you at the time.
So I called, at the time I was really nervous as a business owner, and I was sad because I didn't want something to happen to him, but and they were saying, well, he could just pay us cash, and I said, no. So he ended up leaving, but what I found out is they didn't really care. They said, well, why don't you have him give us a call? We even have a person that speaks Spanish that'll deal with them. And I said, really? I said, this doesn't seem like a big deal. It seems like I'm more worried about it than you are.
Okay.
What I found out is that there are so many people like our employee that we are taking taxes out. Okay, we were taking Social Security out.
Sure.
Those funds are in an account out there. And this was one person. Well, you can imagine how many accounts are out there of people that are actually getting taxes taken out. Well, the Social Security fund is hurting. Well, they're using that money.
Yeah.
So there's not an incentive for them to really crack down, and it's hurting other people, because there are a lot of legal immigration has been great for our country, but if you have illegal immigration, there's a lot of trades people. I've met a lot of union people that are Trump supporters because they're losing their jobs to illegal, and they're also being undercut on their wages, and a lot of that money is being sent back to Mexico. It's not keeping in our society, keeping our tax base down for the rest of us.
Well, what would you say, just to push back a little bit, what would you say to the folks that indicate that, the illegal immigration or the undocumented folks that are out there are doing the jobs, mainly doing the jobs, for the most part, doing the jobs that Americans don't want. So they're out there in the fields picking radishes, or they're doing, cleaning things that you don't want to clean, or working in chicken factories and things like this. What's your reaction to that?
Well, first of all, I don't buy that Americans won't do some of these jobs. Some of these jobs are paying very well. The other thing is, why wouldn't Americans do these jobs? If they say, well, this kind of work is inhumane or whatever. Well, it's good enough for somebody from another country to do. If it's so inhumane, then nobody should be doing it.
Okay.
Second of all, if we can't get any Americans to do these jobs, and there are work permits, there are visas that people come over and work.
There's legal ways to come over.
But they should be temporary, and it should be documented. But also, we have a huge problem in this country with overcrowding of prisons. The costs are outrageous. I brought this up one time when I was being in screening from the farm labor, and I said, if we can't get Americans to do these jobs, what we should do is have prisoners that are ready to be getting out, that they should be doing these jobs. And that money should be put back into the prison system to help offset the cost that it's costing the taxpayers.
Okay.
And these jobs are going to get taken care of. And we're going to have the tax-based money coming back in to help, because this is a huge burden, especially out in California.
Oh, right.
So I'm not a firm believer that, and they say, oh, we need all these people coming. We can't find people in the tech world to do these jobs. I can't believe that. We've got people that don't have jobs that have spent tons of money on college education.
Yeah.
We either got to start directing our students into the trades, which I'm a firm believer of, vocational school, or getting to the math and science or whatever the need is going to be in our future economy. We've got to start driving people into those sectors instead of just a basic 4-year degree.
How do you feel, Bob, about the education and the government paying your public education? If someone wants to go into the University of Minnesota, as long as they're going to be going into a job, hopefully after that, that the state or the governments would help subsidize that rather than have them rack up, $100,000 in debt.
Well, actually, what I would like to see, and it's kind of a radical proposal, but I did this when I was running, is I think K through, we're already paying for K through 12 right now, public education.
With our taxes, right.
And I think K through 10 would be sufficient. I know when I was in high school, my 11th and 12th grade, I was taking a lot of electives. There were certain core classes that you had to take, but I was filling out the rest of my schedule with a lot of stuff that really was for more enjoyment than anything.
Okay.
So I feel if we really concentrated on the reading, arithmetic, the basic course,
the basics, right,
through 10th grade, then 11th and 12th, since we're already paying, would be for the students that would like to go on to vocational training, because we do need manufacturing in this country.
Absolutely.
We're not making anything anymore.
Right.
That way, 11th and 12th would be a productive for those students. They would graduate from high school with the ability to go right in the workforce.
Sure.
And they've already been paid for by us taxpayers because we're already paying. And then people that want to go on to 4-year college degrees could take the 11th and 12th would be for generals. So when they graduate from high school, their generals are all taken care of. Now they're ready to either go on for a 4-year degree.
College generals.
Yes,
okay.
They could go on and pay for their next 2 years on their own, or if they want to continue on for masters.
Sure.
Or if there's fields that are out there that they want to bring these people in and help offset costs for education, I would be all for that. And I think that would be, for me, that's just an idea. But I don't know why it couldn't be tossed around and something worked out.
Sure.
I also believe in school choice.
Okay.
I think I don't think it's not that we're not spending enough money on education. I don't think it's being properly spent.
All right.
I think a lot of it's going into administration and buildings and other things where the classroom is maybe lacking.
Sure. So, for example, if there's a bond issue for a school, we're just here at Hastings High School, we're redoing the, as we learned this morning or this afternoon,
we're
redoing the parking lot here in Hastings High School, or the roofing issues or things like that. A bond issue comes up like that, the superintendent comes out and says, listen, folks, we need to spend X million dollars over a course of this many years to repair these things. Do you usually vote yes or no on those types of things?
On a certain situation like that, if that's what the issue was, maintenance like that, that's preventing, I would be all for it.
Okay.
When my kids went to Egan High School.
Sure.
In School District 196. And this was back when a referendum came up like this, and it was very vague. It wasn't, they was having a busing issue. They didn't have money for busing. They didn't have money for this. They didn't have money for that.
Yeah.
And it was voted no. Oh, well, pretty soon the bus driver would stop a couple blocks back from that's as far as we can go. Your parents voted no. Kids would go up to get copies in school. No, your parents voted no. Oh, it was outrageous. Then they found out that they had all the money for the busing, was in the busing company.
Okay.
And they were holding it back. So that turned off a lot of people.
Sure.
But then the backfire of it, of all this, going after the students and the students coming home and telling their parents, well, they started voting yes on these things. But
All right.
I think a Hastings deal like that, that's common sense.
Sure.
If your buildings need improvements for down the road or your parking, there's basic maintenance that we have to keep up on. Otherwise, it's going to get so far behind that you're never going to be able to catch up.
Right. Like bridges and roads and things like that.
I believe in transportation projects too. I think that's so critical to our commerce. And I think transportation is one that's really overlooked, and I do believe like those shovel-ready products and things and the big stimulus that when Obama first came in, I was running that time and I thought if it would have had a lot more dedicated to transportation, I would have been a lot more for it. But a lot of these jobs, they didn't go to that. And even in our transportation in Minnesota, it's been put off because they take money that's dedicated to transportation and shift it to education or shift it to something else, and pretty soon we don't have any money for. And look at our bridges and roads; we do need a lot of work.
Right.
And I think that's common sense. your infrastructure, transportation needs. Now, the light rail is something that is a huge topic right now because they're even talking about a special session. But I say take care of the roads and the bridges first, and then
maybe
proceed.
buses first rather than a train.
I'm not against buses.
Yeah.
Why not?
So just the role of government is something that always intrigues me when I'm speaking with either liberals or conservatives. Liberals obviously believe a little bit more government involved, the federal government possibly more involved than conservatives who believe more keep it on the local level than the state level. So just kind of, would that be a fair comparison?
Yeah, well, that's kind of, I would prefer keeping things at the state level versus, like we got federal education department. It hasn't worked out so well.
Yeah.
No Child Left Behind it didn't work out so well. I just think that the states, should have more input in it. And I think the more we can keep local, the better. And
because people are closer to the issues, they know best how to.
And the federal government is so big and they're so far, and what's maybe working in one area. I mean, these states, we should be like little experimental places like that we can develop situations in our own state, and if it works out good, maybe other states can take on that.
Sure.
But when you just drive it home from the federal government across the board, it's not working. It just doesn't seem to work out so well.
So one thing that the federal government definitely spends a lot of money on is the military. And obviously, we have state National Guards, but predominantly if we go to Iraq or if we go somewhere else, the federal government is the one that's supporting that. So as far as the war on terrorism, things like, I know we've had a number of events internationally happen over the last several years, obviously. One of Mr. Trump's, and you don't have to defend every single thing Donald Trump says.
Right.
But,
believe me, I find myself every day with somebody.
So. But one of the things he thinks would be a good idea is to prevent people who are Muslims from coming into the United States. And just your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, it's a temporary ban.
Okay.
Until we can get a vetting process. I don't really like singling out a certain religion or certain sector of society.
Sure.
But I do think we do have some real issues. And the FBI and Department of Terror and everything, they say they can't vet all these people coming in. In Minnesota, we are a very compassionate state. We have the refugee resettlement of Somalians. We have more Somalians in the state of Minnesota than anywhere in the country, and probably anywhere other than Somalia itself. And the problem is they won't even do a audit to see. My philosophy is I think our congressional group should be lobbying in Washington that since we have taken in so many, you would think a refugee resettlement would be spread out throughout the United States. No, it's in Minnesota.
Right.
Where there's no other state that's even close. So I thought, well, we are taking on an extra cost of health care, education, a lot of healthcare, just treating people that are sick and everything.
Sure.
And how much is actually costing our state? And maybe we should be able to get some help from the federal government to offset some of those costs, because we are compassionate. There are a lot of states that even when the Syrian refugee problem came in, they weren't going to take anybody. Well, look at us. And then our governor said, well, if we don't take any in, then you Minnesotans should think about moving. I thought, well, that's a heck of a thing to say. We've already taken in more than anywhere else in the country. And you're telling us that, well, so unless I agree with Donald Trump that until people can be vetted, until our employment issues across this country level off, we still have a huge number of unemployment. The numbers that we hear from the media aren't accurate.
Under 5%.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
A lot of people have quit looking for work. People have dropped out of the pot. If you really dig into it, we have a huge, maybe Minnesota's doing good, but across the nation. So immigration, I think, we could put a hold till we figure out what's going on.
Okay.
I'm not opposed to it. I just don't think maybe singling out just people from Muslim background. versus everybody till we know what's going on. And the Syrian refugee problem, I think there needs to be vetting. I really do. And if they can't, if they're telling us they can't, well, I do think we have to stop, take a look at it, take it easy, you know.
Sure.
But with Trump, it's just like immigration. His talk is about illegal immigration.
Right.
But everybody says Trump doesn't want immigration, he's against. There are a lot of Hispanics that are for Trump. Because think about it, if you're waiting in line, you've come across the proper channels, you've done that, or you're waiting in line to come into this country legally, and people are butting through the line and getting in, that doesn't sit well.
Right, right. So
And
you're at a lunch line somewhere and someone is cutting in front of you. How would you feel?
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So, I mean, I think a lot of this Trump brings on himself because of his personality.
And just the way he says
Oh, I
things,
know.
perhaps,
My
is
son,
another-
he tells me,
right.
Dad, I try to like him, I listen to him, but oh my God, if he would just not say that stuff, a lot more people would like him. But I have gone to 2 rallies in Iowa, and I went to one in Wisconsin. And I thought, I'm a Trump supporter. I'm getting a lot of flack about it. People have told me, I've lost respect for you. And I said, well, tell me who you support, you know. So I went to see for myself. I thought, well, I just need to see. I came out of there, I was more of a supporter than I was before I went in.
Wow.
He just gets up there and talks like we're talking.
Okay.
There's no teleprompter. There's he's got a lot of experience. He's doesn't pander. It's very easy to speak when you're not pandering.
Sure.
You tell even our President Obama, very sharp guy when you got that teleprompter, but you get off that teleprompter and he's just not the same guy. Trump is worse when he's on a teleprompter.
Yeah, he is what he is.
He is what he is.
what you get.
Yes, that's what you get with Donald Trump.
I know we just have a couple minutes to go here. Running against Michelle Bachmann.
Yes.
I have you here. I just need to ask, what kind of experience was that?
Oh, I'll tell you. The biggest, this is the absolute truth. Michelle Bachmann's campaign and Michelle treated me great. Not a problem. Terrell Clark, the Democrat, that campaign was pathetic. That's where I got this, you know, I knew what Michelle Bachmann was because she brought me into politics because I was advocating for an issue that she was against, the Mental Health Parity Act.
Okay.
It was the Paul Wellstone bill that I championed after he died because I'm a big, passionate advocate for mental illness treatment.
Sure, okay.
She was the only congresswoman that was against it, so.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for coming on the show. Thank you for emailing us here, and we'll be right back. So here's a thought. Is it just me, or does it seem like the line between politics and entertainment has significantly blurred in recent years? Here in Minnesota, of course, the best example of the transition from actor to politician was when Jesse Ventura was elected governor in 1998. Undeniably someone who loves to be the center of attention, Jesse decided to run for governor as a bit of a lark, but soon found that the public responded to his plain-spoken nature, nonpartisan views on issues, and an independent streak when it came to proposing legislation. Jesse also had an intense love-hate relationship with the news media, using them to showcase his ideas, but then shunning them and calling them jackals, sometimes minutes later when the questioning got a bit tough. Farther back, some of us may remember that Ronald Reagan started off as a play-by-play announcer for the Iowa Hawkeyes and Chicago Cubs, commercial spokesperson and actor, starring in classic movies like Bedtime for Bonzo, before becoming president of the Screen Actors Guild. More recently, another former governor of California, Arnold Schwarzenegger, rose to international fame as a bodybuilder turned action film actor, before heading to Sacramento to lead his state. But there's no denying that this year's campaign has cranked up the entertainment nature of politics to 11 on a scale of 1 to 10, destroying whatever once existed of the line between governing and show business. Without exaggeration, the process of electing our next president has taken on the tenor of a reality show like Survivor, or appropriately enough, Celebrity Apprentice. Regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, there's no denying that his run-up to the Republican presidential nomination was unorthodox, to say the least. Much of his campaign could have easily been paired with a monster truck rally, and his rhetoric wasn't far behind. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is often accompanied and introduced by entertainers like Katy Perry, and Josh Hutcherson from The Hunger Games, as if either of these stars' opinions should influence any of our votes. So why do politicians and their advisors think that we need to be entertained by them rather than informed, enlightened, and inspired? Would Jimmy Carter have won a second term if he had used the Solid Gold Dancers or the Blues Brothers to introduce him on a campaign stop in 1980? Or would John Kerry have benefited from traveling through swing states in 2004 with the cast of Ocean's 12, Usher, or Alicia Keys? At some point, we all need to get past the need to be entertained during every waking hour of our lives. The people with whom we are entrusting our nation's government and presidency should be those who are actually qualified to do so, not the people who say the most outlandish things, have the best music at their campaign rallies, or the one we'd rather have a beer with. If you're among the whopping 50% of us who bother to vote in a presidential election, please try to learn what the candidates believe about issues affecting you, your family, and your environment before casting your vote this November. It's certainly not much to ask, and it will hopefully get all of us thinking about the issues once again, rather than who we think should be voted off the island. I'm Tom Bullington. We'll see you next time on Everybody Loves Politics.